Hi, good evening. I'm the host of the show. My name is Jay. If you happen to have missed last week's episode 152, enjoy this short clip with 𝙎𝙤𝙛𝙩.
And I realized I don't have control over the moments in the world and people in the world. But what I do have 100% control over is replaying that moment again and again. And my mind, by playing that tape again, is releasing the same stress chemicals in my body as when this director was screaming. So I can't control the original event, but I sure as hell can control playing this back. So I took a deep breath and I tried to let it go as best I could. And when it popped up in the day, when I got to set, saw the director again, that vision of him screaming came up again. And I breathed and I said, I can't control that moment, but I can control this one.
My name is Jay Rothman. Welcome to Real Men, Real Talk, Live! As we wait for some of our viewers and listeners to join us live streaming this evening, I want to introduce my amazing co-host. We have 𝙎𝙤𝙛𝙩, the man of the land from down under. He calls himself the Ab Original. Welcome back from Australia, 𝙎𝙤𝙛𝙩.
Thank you. As always, gentlemen, looking forward again to diving in deep.
And as Ev goes in deep tonight, I want to also introduce we have actually someone that kind of looks familiar to me, but something's a little different. Jeff Fasano, welcome back, Jeff Fasano.
It's good to be back.
Good to have you. Coming in from Nashville, Tennessee, coming in hot tonight. We have Jay Riddy. We also call him 𝙎𝙤𝙛𝙩. Coming in from somewhere in Southern California, heating up the tank as he gets ready, launching a new season. But we are here on Real Men Real Talk Live. Welcome back, 𝙎𝙤𝙛𝙩.
Excited to break it down tonight, fellas. Got a good one.
And so as we
always do.
What's that?
No, we always do.
Somehow we get there. But what tonight's episode is all about is, it's episode 153. Tonight's episode is called Soft Lies, Hard Truths. Become the creator of a greater perspective in your life. Your life. Truth, the greatest pill to swallow. What are hard truths? Why we ignore hard truths? Why it's important to learn from life's challenges and how to be open to receive hard truths of life to gain greater perspective and create the life of your dreams. Considering, Ev, you introduced this new topic for this week's episode 153. I want to invite you to kick us off, light us up, get us hot, and get this show on the road.
Absolute pleasure, gentlemen, and looking forward. Thank you for our brothers and sisters, whatever you are coming in and tuning into the frequency at your time. You're always on divine time. And this comes on the back end. I was self-reflecting. Yes, tomorrow here in the land down under, I just so happen to be going around my 45th sun cycle. And I generally take a good week out to do some self-reflection, man. And, some of these truths that I'll share tonight, some may look at them as hard, but I'm going to be sharing tomorrow on the day of my birth, my Earth Day, 45 lessons from feeling less than that life has really taught me. Now, we know our life, man, you'd have to be very angelic to not have some of these ups and downs, bumps and bruises that we carry within our life. But we're taught from a very early age to ignore some of these things, maybe to even avoid some of these things within our lives that may shape up as a challenge, may shape up as an obstacle, but we feel it's too uncomfortable to actually face or confront. And we go on with these blind spots within the background. These blind spots can really become a hard truth. And until we really face and acknowledge and accept some of these hard truths within our life, it really does deplete our growth, our expansion, our sense of satisfaction, our sense of fulfillment, and the meaning that we want to really start to manifest within our lives. So during this week, when I've been doing the self-reflection and really digging into some of these hard truths that have been hard to swallow, particularly even in the last few years, man, and they may look at it as something as much as, you know, having to let go of certain relationships. It's had to look at, you know, career moves that I've had to make, even some habits that have been hard truths that I've had to face that I've now been able to acknowledge and been able to confront and be able to really walk in my own truth from now here on after this 4, 5, 9 cycle closeout. So I'm looking forward to diving in deep and sharing some of those truths, brothers. But what about you, brothers? How can we navigate through these hard truths tonight?
Well, and happy birthday too, Ev, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, man.
45. I remember that.
Was it good, Jeff? Was it a good time?
I was 5 years into building a photography career.
Wow, man. And look at you now.
Yeah, I'm going to be 65 next week.
Double nickels. We got double nickels going on, don't we?
No, I wish I was double nickels. It's 6'5".
No, I'm talking about you and Ev, but right now I'd like to do is I want to acknowledge Ev's early happy birthday for you as well.
Yes.
Next week we'll honor Mr. Fasano, but in this moment, yeah, happy birthday, man! And it's I know how you show up. I'm sure you're gonna take time to honor this day of celebration of not who you were, but who you become.
It's key, man. It's key.
Sharing some truths.
You know, that's great, Jay. And I think one of the things we can do, and I don't know about if this is a hard truth, but I feel, and in my life, I've been spending a lot of time on my wounding and really looking at that as opposed to acknowledging it, knowing that it's sacred, knowing that the path we took to get to where we are now, which Ev will reflect on tomorrow, is to look at ourselves now. Wow, where was I when I started this journey, this inner journey? And where am I now? Because this is the moment of now and the present now. We're not those wounds. We're not those wounded little boy and little girl. We are who we are right now. And to begin to look at that from the inside out, really move into our heart space and acknowledge who we are, acknowledge our path and how we arrived at this moment in time. Because I can get caught up in, you know, focusing on the wounding, focusing on where it came from, the origin of it. And we've all done a good job of that. It's about looking at the truth of where we are right now and building upon that and being grateful and thankful for all of the wounding that we went through, all of the trials and tribulations, so to speak, all of the challenges that we've gone through to get to where we are right now in our lives as adults.
Jeff, I'm so excited that you brought that up. And that's an amazing point. And it's something I've been wanting to talk about for a while. I know we're going to deviate for a second, but I promise we're coming back to the topic tonight. But
Are you sure?
No, I'm not actually. But I think a lot of times we have this belief in our minds that the healing journey is going to be as hard or painful as the trauma we're working through. And here's what I've discovered is that it's uncomfortable going through this, and it doesn't feel great, but it is never as hard as the original. And the fear of going through it and reaching that point of discomfort and backing away, reaching it and backing away, reaching it, a lifetime of that torture is actually way harder than just kind of going through it finally and sitting in the discomfort, processing it, going through the healing journey around it, and then you're done. It's done. So yes, I just wanted to stress, because I realized that last week, that I kept myself from my healing journey because I thought the healing was going to be as painful as the trauma I was healing from, and it's not. Right. And so I just wanted to bust that myth real quick.
And you know something, this is what's been coming up for me. What I have realized in the last week or so is how much, and Josh said it, how much I'm in my head thinking about things, as opposed to just when I sink into my heart space and go there, it's amazing how everything shifts into a reality, because that's where our reality is. Our reality is in our heart space, in our soul space. We get caught up here. I get caught up here thinking about, and you just said it, Josh, thinking about that this is going to, if I do this, this is going to be, what am I going to expect? As opposed to breathing, going in, and then experiencing. And the experience is not as horrific as we think it is.
Yes, it is.
I think it might be.
No, never.
It's a story. That's a story.
So I got a question. I got a question for you, Jeff, then, because you've just acknowledged that you tend to slip into, let's say, I'm going to paraphrase what I heard you say, into old patterns, old behaviors. As soon as you hit either a thought or an idea or an action, something that you may do that kind of lights you up and kind of brings you back in old patterns. Having this awareness that it doesn't serve you, perhaps. What's the pivot? What's the gateway to catch yourself before you find yourself down that dark, dense, deep rabbit hole that then can take you days or weeks to climb back out of? Have you figured out how to navigate through those moments and take a different path than what you have in the past, that you've acknowledged 13 minutes into the night's program that it hasn't necessarily served you? And this is not just for you. I'm asking this question for our viewers and listeners, because, I am you and you are I. We all naturally, we go right to the old patterns in our thoughts and our mind.
It was just the pivot was in therapy 2 days ago, of looking at who I am, not what I look like. I mean, this old stuff, this old programming and conditioning from way back when, from mom. But then, and beginning that new behavior, a reprogramming. I just sounded like Elvis right there. But it's a reprogramming of that, and then bringing that child with you along the way. And like I said, coming into that adult place. So I'm reprogramming it with, this is who I am. I'm loved for who I am. I'm not loved for what I look like or how successful I am, how much money I have. These are examples. I'm loved and liked for who I am. So the reprogram for me is sitting down and writing that down every day, even if I'm creating the same list over and over again. But the key that I realized, I've realized this last week, when I'm in my meditations, it was so apparent. And we've talked about this in the show a whole bunch of times, how I was like, oh my God, I'm in my head. I'm in my head. And I'm thinking about all of this stuff. And then when I just stop and go into my heart, which can be very, very frightening, because when we're in our heads, we think we can control it all.
Boom.
We think we can control everything if I stay in my head and find every which way to avoid these feelings that are coming up. But if I sink into my heart and then do my best to let go, those feelings and the energy moves, and it's not as horrifying as we think it is up here.
Yeah, here's I think the reason that happens, Jeff, is that the ego resides in the mind. The ego lives up here, and ego's done everything he can do or she can do to control our outcomes for decades. And
Lifetime.
What we're talking about is that we may actually put ego out of its primary role or job in our life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But the thing about it is that what I realized is how the resistance or the resistance to let go.
Mm-hmm.
There was such a strong resistance to let go into my heart and allow whatever I was experiencing, allow myself to experience it. Mm-hmm. In our mind and in the womb, the child is terrified of the experience because it's 5 years old, 7 years old, or whatever, because of the initial trauma or wound or whatever that was created that was horrific, mm-hmm. perhaps. So we're reliving that. And as the adult, I realized how and still, at times, and in our production meeting, I was explaining to you, I feel like I'm at the edge of a cliff holding on by my fingernails right now in my life, really going into my heart and letting go to allow myself to have just all the experience that I realize is not threatening to my adult or my value and love of self. Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm doing. But just know this, that I'm still hanging on that cliff.
Which is uncomfortable. However, it's not going to kill you.
Yeah.
And you'll be okay.
Yeah.
And you said it beautifully too, Jeff, is that all energy has to move.
Yeah.
Happiness, discomfort, joy, pain, sadness, it all can't live forever. They're just moments in time, moments, and these emotions we feel like we're afraid that if we go into it, it's gonna be forever. And that's just not the truth either.
No.
By going into it, you can actually move through it and maybe even learn or realize some things about yourself along the way. But energy has to move. That's the rule. Yep. It all has to move.
Yep.
Good, bad, all of it.
Yep.
Ev, I'm curious, Ev, what are you making of this conversation that you're hearing going back and forth right now?
Well, it was one of the hard truths of my 45 lessons from feeling less than that life has taught me that I'll share tomorrow. And, it's something that I see with a lot of people. But, when I went through a lot of the hard truths that I had to, swallow in regards to the separation that people can leave and, they can come at certain times in the split of an eye, they can be gone. Natural disasters outside of ourselves. We're very limited on what we actually can control. One of the big life lessons that I'll share tomorrow is that we may not be able to control the outside world, but the lesson that I was taught is that we have to learn how to respond to it. So what that built within my tools and my armor was me being able to face adversity, for me being able to cope with those particular hardships within my lives that allowed me to give a better perspective on not only how other people were treating me, but what I needed to do for myself to fulfill my own emotional well-being.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of the biggest things of being able to let go of control. Because we do not have control of anything on the outside world, but we do have our opportunity on how to respond to it.
That's great. Yeah.
Josh, I want to ask you, I'm going to put you in a hot seat right now. What comes to your mind as far as a soft lie and a hard truth in your life that you finally were able to acknowledge to yourself so you could break through and break free of your inner bondage living in that lie? What's the hardest truth that you've acknowledged in your 40-something young years of life?
How much time do we have? There's been a lot of hard truths I have had to accept. Yeah, it seems I'm trying to, while I'm going to describe it, I'm thinking of an example. I'm living one right now. Honestly, I'm in the middle of a very, very big side project, and I can't say anything about it yet. We will share when the time is right. However, it is putting me squarely in the old days of my startup 10 years ago. And and it's funny, what I'm learning now is that I'd always wished back then I had believed in myself more. I had been more confident. That's my only regret. I gave that business everything. I mean, down to my last penny. I was broke and almost killed myself because of that business and it failing. However, it's not a regret. It's like a wonder. I'm like, I wonder if I believed in myself, what difference that would have made. I wonder if I thought I could do it, because I had this imposter thing going on. I had this fear that, am I faking it? Can I not do this? And it's funny. I thought I had worked through that, but I'm in a very similar and very familiar situation right now, where I'm blasting this massive idea out to the world and opening myself up for rejection, criticism, and this fear is coming up again. This old ghost, right? If we didn't deal with it then, these familiar things come back when something near that emotion, near those feelings, is triggering it again. And so I'm sitting in it this time, and it's very uncomfortable. I've been sitting in it for weeks, actually, and I really, really don't like it. But doing a little digging and a little sifting this time, now being aware, for the first time going through this emotion, I'm like, what's at the bottom of this? Hey, if I'm going to sit in this discomfort, I might as well learn something. And let's get the nugget that's in this mucky swamp. And so digging around, I realized this is a hard truth. This was a tough pill to swallow. I've been living a lie. And the lie is that I can't do this. And I'm going to say it again because it carries a lot of weight in me. The number one lie I've been living my entire life is I can't do this. And even though I've proven to myself over and over again doing things that I never thought I could do or were capable of, or it's coming up again, and I feel it. And it's that old crusty belief that that this one thing is too big. I can't do this. And I'm sure in 5 years looking back, I'll have the confidence, but in this moment, it's visceral, it's uncomfortable, it's here. But looking at it for the first time, I'm finally able to say, this is shit, man. This this is an old story. This is an old tape. This isn't truth. And though I've never been through this big thing yet in my life, there's also another possibility that exists that I could be really good at this. So yeah, the hard truth is that actually looking back, there was a lot of times I listened to that story of I can't do this, and I didn't give it my all, and I didn't give it everything, and I kept one foot in the door of safety rather than just going for it, whatever it was. There's tons of it's that I wanted to go after, and I gave it 70% because I wasn't sure I could do it, or I played it safe, or I had my insurance, lined up just in case it didn't go. And man, how many times have I robbed myself of proving to myself or learning, or because I kept one foot safe, because I didn't think I could do it. So I'm sitting in it right now and calling myself out right now. I don't know that I can do this, but I also am busting that stupid belief that I can't.
Hey, Josh, I have a question for you. When, and this just as you were speaking, when you began your startup and you were doing the startup, and this goes back to looking at where we were and where we are now. Back then, were you in a place where you said, I have to do this alone? Yeah. And say, I have to do this alone. And then even when it wasn't working, I have to do this alone. In our growth and what we've been talking about here, always looking as we open our heart and move through this, just know that you have an immense amount of support from a lot of people now, that you've opened your heart space to allow that support in. When we think we need to do it alone, there's so much judgment and shame in that we don't want to ask for help, but we don't even realize that there is so much support from people who love us. And I feel, and I don't know why this is coming up and why I'm saying it, you've got so much right here, but other people that you open your heart to really know that you have a whole bunch of people that have got your back now. And that could be the growth for all of us as we open our hearts. We've got people that are really there supporting us, and we don't have to do it alone.
You know what? I want to piggyback what Jeff just said there, Josh, is that
we're not going to let you fail.
What?
We're not going to let you fail. He said,
we're not going to let you fail.
Where I think he was insinuating where I'm going to take us is that even if someone is not, let's say, physically got their boots on and they're walking it with you, energetically, we're right by your side. So even if, let's say, for example, I put myself out there, if there's any way that I can be of support and help you as you work on this significant project, not by yourself this time, but energetically, I'm here with you. And the power of energy is quite significant, as each one of us men have learned over the last number of years. The other thing I want to say, Josh, is you're not the same person you were 10 years ago. You were in your 30s.
Right.
You've got a decade of new lessons, a decade of growth, a decade of wisdom that comes along with the work you've done.
Yep.
And so in those moments when in the past when you were in it and you were scared or you had the self-doubt, that was then. And I would encourage you and invite you to not allow that to rope you back into those old patterns, and understand that you're not the same person you were. And you have different people surrounding you today, even than 10 years ago. Just right here, right now, this right here, right now, in this moment, you got 3 men that just, we just adore you. We love you, Josh Richard. And anything we could ever do to support and be there for you, we are here. If you said to me, I need you this weekend, Rothman, can you come to LA?
Yeah.
Within reason, as long as I don't have a commitment, I'm there. I'm there.
The thing about it is as we, Josh we're going to have the experience. The stuff's has to come up, whatever it is. It's coming up. But now we don't have to go through it alone. We can have our experiences. We can allow those feelings, those memories, that trauma come up, but we don't need to go through it alone. It's real, because I forget that. That's why I'm bringing it up. I forget, and I'll go off and I will do whatever I do and forget that I can make a phone call. I did it with Josh over the weekend.
Yep.
When I was going through that, and we talked and we this and that, and then I'm not alone. I'm not alone. I still have to experience this.
Yep.
I must experience this, but I don't have to go off and do it alone.
Beautiful.
Because just that one person might have an insight like you did for me that was like, oh.
Yep. Moving right along here. Ev, I want to invite you. I'm going to put you in a hot seat, Ev, right here, right now. We're going to move it. Let's move right along. Ev,
Let's move.
give us the hard truth. What's the hard truth that you picked up most recently?
Well, I'm just going to piggyback on what our brother's saying there. And the hard truth that I come quite a lot, across a lot, and very early in my early years, it was something that I was telling myself too, was I can't. But this limiting belief, I had to dig deep and ask myself where that came from. It wasn't mine. It was negative experiences that I was going through within school. But also, I had to ask myself, had it been programmed down to me from, those people that were looking after me? But, in today's world, we may even have to ask, from societal conditioning. When I started to believe that I can't, what was really underneath it was did I want to, or did I know how to? So when I was able to skill myself in certain things that I didn't feel I could do, then that gave me the confidence. It gave me the self-esteem. But most importantly, it gave me my personal power back. You see, when we say we can't do something, straight away we're externalizing our own personal power. And we're not accepting that the hard truth is that we can. So with that simple reframe of the language that I started to speak to myself, I can do this, started to rub off and really start creating a ripple effect with those other people, places around me as well. So these are just little limiting beliefs that we have to get down to the root of. Now, the other thing that I'll just quickly say there on the back end that you brothers are talking about, I had to be step 2 for me after acknowledging that limiting belief and that hard truth, the new black. And the new black is vulnerable. I had to be vulnerable and talk to those people that I trusted around me about what was that limiting belief, which was I couldn't. So that beautiful vulnerability allowed me to have those particular peers help me along that part of my journey. And so it is important, like Jeff and Josh are saying, that we find that group of supportive people, people that you can revere and trust, Because believe me, one of those hard truths that I've got to share tomorrow, I found out that some of those closest people in my life may not necessarily have had the best intentions for me.
And Ev, you just made me think of another hard truth on top of the hard truth. So on top of the hard truth of I can't is who did I blame? Who and what did I blame all those years to cover over the fact that it was me stopping me? That one was hard to swallow. Harder. So who am I who and what am I blaming for not being able to do it, instead of realizing that it was me and my fear stopping me all along?
Love it, brother. Powerful awareness, man.
I wanna jump in here for a moment here and share from my perspective. My experience is that the more time I spent living in my head and not living in my heart, I was making choices in my life that were harmful. They were coming from a place of lack, a place of self, a place of connection to myself. And so as we're speaking in this moment, 𝙃𝙬𝙀𝙎, about what you're navigating through, this new, fresh moment that feels somewhat familiar, I want to invite you to get out of your head and get into your heart. You could run a business, you could create something bigger and greater than we could ever imagine when we truly tap into the truth. And the truth does not live in our head. The truth is in our heart. The truth is it's our soul. Your wisdom is all in here. It's not up here. This is what keeps us playing small in life. It keeps us living in our soft lies. I want to share something with you, gentlemen. I had the honor of meeting actually one of our viewers, Richard, for lunch today in Sedona. And we sat on a patio at an Italian restaurant. And there was no alcohol involved in today's lunch. It was water. But I will tell you this, that at some moment, we were sharing some of our hard truths in our younger years. And I got the honor of witnessing him speaking from his heart, from his truth. And in that moment, he teared up. And what did I do? I teared up right there with him. I connected with him. And as I sit here and being present in this moment on the show, I'm just thinking about two men sitting in an Italian restaurant, sitting there having a conversation of the true essence of vulnerability between two men, that there were no lies, there was only truths there. But in that moment, because we were speaking not from our head, but from our heart, we both got emotional. And it wasn't, I can't speak for you, Richard, but I'll speak for myself. It wasn't, I don't believe those tears were coming from sadness. I do believe those tears were coming from gratitude, because what you shared with me was really part of your spiritual awakening. And I totally can relate to that, because I went through that same process, different circumstances, but the same end result. And what a beautiful gift when we can show up and share our soft lies, share our truths, acknowledge them, honor them, and be grateful for the lessons that came from them. There are no wasted truths in life when we have the courage to ask the most important question: which is what are the lessons? How do I learn? How do I grow from these truths that I'm willing to acknowledge, not only to myself, but to maybe to a few people that I trust in my life, a few people that will hold the space for us in that moment. And so, this is part of tonight's broadcast, because no matter what we may think, the heart knows the truth. The soul knows the truth. And I remember sitting in the 12-step rooms, and I heard more than one person say these words. My biggest fear of healing is, who will I be? Who will I be? There is not a stronger egocentric statement than that. Who you will be is the person you were born to be. Let go of who you became. That came from our wounds from our childhood. It came from our pain. It came from our teachers, our ancestors. Let go of that. There's freedom. There's the true essence of freedom is when we get out of our head and we get into our heart. And so, Josh Richard, I will say this to you right here, right now. I have no doubt. I have nothing but faith and trust that your outcome is going to be very different than it was then. That was then. This is now. Get out of your head. You have a beautiful heart. Let your heart be your compass. Let your heart speak your truth in this business venture, this project, whatever it is. And then get out of the way and trust divine source, that he will continue to guide you and provide what wisdom you're not tapping into. He'll guide you right to it. What do you make of that, Fasano?
I just want to know if you had cannolis at the Italian restaurant.
I don't want to say, I don't want to disappoint you, but this is Sedona. This is not Little Italy or Italy. So there were no cannolis. Matter of fact, they didn't even have calzones. We talked about that, but we were able to get a gluten-free pizza today, and it was delicious from a place called Vespa, Vespa. But I'm not here to market for Vespa. But what I am here to do is I just did. But what I am here to do is just to acknowledge that the reason that we do this show, because this show is all about our truths. This is our 153rd episode, and I'm not aware that in any episode that any of us didn't speak the truth, even when it made us sad, even when it has impacted us. We've really shown up on this show, and we speak our truth as men. And for that, I am grateful, and I am thankful to have each one of you that I call my co-hosts, but more importantly, I call you my brothers. I call you my soulful brothers, and thank you for that. And so, Fasano, I want to ask you, Mr. Cannoli, the Italian.
I don't like cannolis.
You
The whole Godfather thing came up in my head when you said it. I could picture Jay in an Italian restaurant sitting there. And then
checkered tablecloth.
Yeah, really. Checkered tablecloth, the bread coming, the olive oil, sitting there, having your cloth napkin in here and, eating.
Well, it wasn't quite like that, but what did stand out for me, Jeff, was how rare it is to have two adult men sitting there speaking their truths, allowing the tears to flow, and the two of us connecting soul to soul. That's what that's the true essence of what we're striving for in life. We're chasing relationships, we're chasing connections, but we're looking in all the wrong corners.
Well, you know, it's like Ev said, he's gonna, well, what he is going to do tomorrow. He said, I'm going to share a lot of things with a lot of people, and some of the people who I thought were in my corner or had my back, I might realize they never did.
So how do you walk through that? How do you navigate through that without anger, Ev, without resentment?
Yeah.
How are you planning on showing up and sharing your truths without being worried about how it's going to affect other people
Or betraying yourself.
I think that is the ultimate betrayal, isn't it? When we abandon ourselves and our own emotions and feelings.
Yep.
So the opinion of
someone
others and the validation of others is another one of those 45 lessons that I've learned. It doesn't matter. The only opinion that matters is your own. But you must be so thick within your own skin and self-belief that you can come to that particular conclusion in your life. Mate, it's taken me 45 years, like I said. But those valuable lessons have only helped me grow as an individual. Now, those things that I've also learnt within understanding that some of those closest people did not have my back and my intentions was that I still have empathy for them. I still have compassion for them. So there is no anger. There is no hate. There is no more belief. It's just a knowing. And the knowing came from my heart space. So by facing some of these hard truths within our life, it's only helped me now grow and expand even more as an individual. So now it allows me, when I do come into certain similar situations within my life, do I pivot? Am I able to shift? Am I able to adapt? Or am I able to create the change that I want to see now in my reality for my own personal growth?
Yeah.
Because what other people say and the opinions of others, it really does not matter, my brothers and sisters. But you've got to be so tight within your own self-belief that you understand that.
Yep.
One of the things that I've learned is how I believed that I needed to look outside of myself for approval. And it all hinged upon how I looked. You know, and then I dove into that wound that was created when I was probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years old. And I remember it so distinctly. It was so ingrained in me that, you know, if I changed something, it was always about this outer approval of if I look great, if my physical appearance was this, if I looked perfect, if my beard looked perfect, if I had a beard, if I didn't have it, whatever, it was all hinged on that as opposed to who I am. That's the pivot for me. That it with the old lie, and it wasn't even a soft lie. It was a big, hard lie. The only way I'm going to be loved is if I'm approved on how I look. And that was all created by mom showing me off as her trophy when I was a miracle baby, when doctors told her she couldn't have kids, and she would dress me up and show me off. It wasn't about who this kid is. It's about this is my validation, and this is what he looks like, and I'm going to dress him up and make him look like a little Ken doll, a little baby Ken doll. And that's the truth. And that's what happened. And I've been working through that for a long time, and I'm going to be 65 next Saturday. And I'm just pivoting, beginning to really pivot and move into a deeper sense of who I am. You know, and if we could just think about, why do I love you guys? Well, it's not because Josh has got a kick-ass beard. You know, it's because
cool.
I love who he is. I mean, he does have a kick-ass beard, but yes, but it's because of who he is. It's because who Jay
Yeah.
is, who Evis is, and all the people I love. So if I'm in that place, which is an adult place, I don't need anything from anybody. You know, you want companionship, you want a balance of giving and receiving. Why do I love you guys? Well, I love you guys for who you are. And that's the thing that I'm realizing now, that I am beginning to reprogram within me.
Beautiful, brother.
Beautiful. Well, welcome home, Jeff. Welcome home. Now it's about kind of unpacking, so you stay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's okay to take a trip once in a while, but it's not okay to live on a trip.
Nope.
Welcome home.
It's one of the reasons why I did shave off my beard on Saturday. It was something that I needed to do to begin the journey through that experience of who I am.
I was curious if it was a pushback on the old on mom.
Oh no.
Like
that's a good question.
Like a rejecting of that old energy and just like a
okay. Well, when I was doing it, there was a lot of anger in there.
Okay.
When I was doing it, there was
a hard truth.
Wow. Great question. Wow. I didn't even think of that. And you know what?
I've been dying to ask that since Saturday when you told me, and I was like, I'm going to save it for the show.
Wow. You know what? Yes. Wow. Wow. Yeah. I mean, when I was doing it, there was a lot of anger in doing it. My face was red. And as I was looking at myself, wow. It was like, here, take this, Mom. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Yes. The answer is yes. Yeah. I mean, I've done a lot of things in my life, including ripped jeans. And I literally would have ripped jeans when in my 20s. And, and they were natural. They were just old and get holes in them. And I would wear them out and it would infuriate my mother. And I loved it. Did a lot of things that would infuriate her. Going out to dinner wearing flip-flops. Oh, and I would do it on purpose. Thank you, Josh. That is, wow, I didn't think of how that at all.
So part of this journey, Jeff, and we're going to move on in a moment here as we get close to wrapping up the hour, could be to use this new epiphany awareness in a moment to do additional healing around, giving back those things that you've been holding on to that were never yours. They were your mom's, and to give it back to her, not with anger, but with love in your heart, knowing that it hasn't served you, and it's time for you to give it back and release what has never been yours, but you've been carrying and holding on to since you were probably born. And there's freedom in that. But with what time we do have left, I want to invite each one of you gentlemen here to join me in sharing some tips, tricks, and tools on how to be open and receive the hard truths of your life to gain greater perspective and create the life of your dreams. What can that look like? Perhaps drop one tip, trick, or tool, or a few. With what time we have left here for our viewers and listeners, how they can break free of their own inner soft or hard lies, so that we can live our best life. No longer living in that nightmare, but living in a dream that brings you comfort, brings you calm, brings you into peace. Josh, what's off?
Sure. It's funny going through this new realization and going through it with awareness and not being stuck in my head about it, and noticing what's coming up, feeling the discomforts. And I think the biggest lesson for me in all of this is that I don't know a new pattern because I've been running the old one forever, for my entire life. That fear that I can't. And so I don't know what it's like to fully believe in myself. And I don't know what it's like to be free of those doubts just yet through this big thing that I'm going through. But I am noticing that the old pattern is there. I'm reframing in the moment and moving forward. And that's all we can do. There's no light switch. There's no aha moment. There's no one moment you're one way and the next. That was the biggest lie, I think, in all this healing process that I was looking for, was this light switch for change. It's gradual. It's a little uncomfortable. And I don't know what the future is going to look like. But I do know that I'm breaking the past. And as I gently and lovingly do that, and sometimes it has to be multiple times a day that I remind myself to get out of my head or get out of that old pattern and accept this new and move through this new in a conscious way. And so I guess the biggest thing I'm learning right now is that it's okay not to know and just keep moving forward. And that this is the process. This is letting go of old stories, old tapes, old programs, and that life will be different after this.
Oh, Josh, your future's so bright that you're going to have to wear shades.
Jeff, you're up. You got a minute or two, Jeff, to share any tips, tricks, and tools on how to receive your hard truths, accept your hard truths, and how to create the life of your dreams based on your acknowledgement of your truths.
This was big for me in therapy on Tuesday. Sometimes we have to create experiences so we can have an experience that shows us that experience and our old beliefs within that experience is not threatening to who we are, our value, and our love of self. That is what is important to do. It sounds really simple, but we've got to create those moments, make those choices to move out of the old. I know that I need to make this choice to move forward in my growth or my personal growth. But there's something quite possibly in our head that doesn't allow us to make that choice. The important part is to make the choice so we can have an experience that shows us that it's not threatening to who we are. It's not even that horrific. But the important part, and I'll say this again, I'll say this for the next 153 shows: don't do it alone.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you, Jeff Asano.
But my second tip is watch the replay of the show.
There you go. There you go. There you go. Evis Love, you're up, brother. What do you got?
Yeah, man. Love those, my brothers. And look, I'm just going to sit back on my reflection this week. And, we nailed a couple of them already off the park tonight. And that was first, being able to acknowledge and accept that this life is up and downs, man. It's a bumpy ride. I don't care who you are, where you've come from. Everyone's had these hardships and these adversities that really are ingrained within our lives. But when we become more self-aware, and I think when we can become really self-aware of our own emotions, our thoughts and our feelings, and just being able to pause, just being able to take time out and reflect like I have this week, rather than being so busy with our daily routines, going 100 miles an hour, we don't give ourselves that time to just reflect on some of these things. Now, we talked about it tonight as well. I'd be definitely finding that support system and surrounding yourself with love. Seek feedback from those people that will give you constructive perspective of those things that you're trying to face hard truths with. And being able to learn that, we've got to stay so mindful of some of these things within our life. Otherwise, we not paying attention miss in the gift of receiving the lesson of the hard truth.
Can you repeat that?
Yeah.
So us not paying attention, we miss the gift of receiving the lesson of the hard truth. So be present. One of those things I'll share tomorrow is the impermanence of life. We are here for a short time, my brothers and sisters. So why not create a life that we truly want to see, rather than lying and sitting in some of these secrets that only keep us sick, where at the end of the day, my brothers and sisters, we know that the truth shall set us free.
There you go. Beautiful.
Simple as that, man.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I love that, Ev. And I'm going to put my pretty thoughts into this moment right here, right now, which is an alignment, which is that, well, I'm going to play back a short clip from last week's episode where I talked about accountability. And why this is relevant to tonight's topic is that when we are willing to face our truths, acknowledge our truths, our hard truths, we have the opportunity to finally show up and grow up. And so I am going to play this back. I think it's important to acknowledge that when someone, even if it is a delay on their part, the fact that he took accountability and acknowledged that how he treated you was inappropriate. How many people in our own lives, friends, family members, ex-spouses, current spouses, employers, employees, misbehave because they're in pain and they don't take accountability for their words or for their actions. And I think it's a beautiful gift when we can receive that. Even the part of us that still wants to just kind of pounce back on them, but to acknowledge them and thank them for acknowledging that to us, because that's part of growing up, and we've affected somebody else. It's a beautiful gift that we get to take accountability.
It's our life.
We get to take accountability. What a gift.
And we get to grow up and take accountability and take responsibility.
But part of that too is still, no matter what, honoring that child within. And understand that when we feel insecure, when we go to self-doubt, when we're living in our soft lies, those lies, we've been carrying them for not only our lifetime, but for our ancestors. Most likely it's coming from them.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And it's time to cut the cord. It's time to cut it. Not with anger, but with gratitude. Cut the cord. Free yourself. Take accountability. Let those soft lies, let them go. Let them drift off into the ocean so you can be free to be who you were born to be. And with that, God, do I love you guys. We'll catch you next week on Real Men. Join me, guys. Real talk.